What's up, guys? So today I've got a pretty good video today. So we got the iPhone XS, the iPhone 11, the iPhone 12. We're going to be comparing these older flagships, and I know a lot of you guys are looking to upgrade iPhones, especially my people who had an iPhone 10 and an iPhone 8 Plus. Since Apple did cut support for those phones, they're not getting iOS 17. So the oldest iPhone to get iOS 17 is actually the XS, I believe. Also, you could throw the iPhone SE in there. The only thing about the SE is that I think most people would prefer to pick from these three. I think if you really want, a physical button and Touch ID, you just get the iPhone SE. Otherwise, I wouldn't pick that phone over these three. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about the price, display, specs, all that good stuff. And so we can sort of narrow the decision down here. Alright, so let's talk about the price. The cheapest phone, of course, is going to be the iPhone XS here, coming in at $236, and you can find this probably cheaper on eBay, so around 200 bucks. The iPhone 11 is slowly coming down in price as well too. It was around like 300 beginning of the year. Now you can see 267 for very good condition. All of these phones I actually got used refurbished, guys. So most of my phones I buy used refurbished. And then the iPhone 12 is going to be the more expensive model. I typically see these trending for around 350 to like 380. So that's typically what you would find this phone at. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the displays here. So you do have on the XS, it is a 5.8-inch OLED display. The iPhone 11 has a 6.1-inch LCD display, and then the iPhone 12 also has an OLED display at 6.1 inches. And basically the display difference, so the XS, I noticed, especially anyone with smaller hands, this phone is much easier to hold, and like I said, the display is smaller, so it's easier to one hand. That's one thing that I noticed. Now, these phones obviously aren't big. I just wanted to point that out. So it is a little bit more comfortable to hold for sure. But the best display here is, of course, going to be the iPhone 12 display. Not only because it has the OLED, it's 1080p, but it gets very bright outdoors. It's much brighter than the 11 and the XS. It gets up to 1200 nits peak brightness. So that's something that I really like. So in direct sunlight, you can see it way easier than you can the 11 or the XS. The second best display I would probably say is the XS, because I think most people prefer the OLED displays. You get deeper blacks, and overall it's just, Apple has never went back to LCD displays, so that's what the industry pretty much prefers. And so the LCD display is not bad on the iPhone 11. The only thing about the iPhone 11's display is that it's actually a 720p plus display. So these two are 1080p, but this one is 720p plus, and you can definitely tell the difference when watching content in 1080p for sure. So you can tell this is 720p for sure, but the iPhone 11 display is still sharp, so it still has a pretty high PPI. So when you look at it, icons and everything, text, it does look still pretty good. So I don't think the average person would really notice if I just gave, two people the 11 and the XS or the 12, they probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But very, very good displays. You have the notch on all of these phones here. But I would say if you're really into displays, I would say you could spend the extra money and buy the iPhone 12 for sure, since it does a much better job in direct brightness. But I think for the average person, it's really not that big of a difference. Like I said, if you don't find yourself like really watching a lot of movies and stuff and YouTube videos and high res, you'll be fine with the iPhone 11 display. It's really not that bad, especially in person. Just looking at them side by side, like, yeah, you can tell the difference in resolution, but I don't think for the average person it's going to be a big deal. But definitely the best display, if you want the best display experience, you would go with the iPhone 12 for sure. All right, so next let's talk about the specification a little bit more in gaming performance, because I know this is a pretty big thing for a lot of people who are trying to game on a budget, or if you're just a casual gamer, then this will be useful. So all of these phones are actually capable of running PUBG at HDR Extreme. That is the setting it's on right now. And the spec wise, the iPhone XS is running the Apple A12 chip, and that has 4 gigs of RAM. The iPhone 11 is running the Apple A13 chip, and that also has 4 gigs of RAM. And the iPhone 12 is running the Apple A14 chip with 4 gigs of RAM. So they all play PUBG really well. The gaming experience on these phones like I said, is really good. So I think the sweet spot, if you just wanted to save money, would be the iPhone 11, because there's no real big difference from the performance on the 11 versus the 12, in my opinion. Sometimes the 10s can heat up a little bit, but even the 10s, you don't really get that many frame drops and stuff like that. It's still a very smooth phone. But I like the iPhone 11 for anybody who's trying to game on a budget. You don't have to spend, the almost $400 to get the 12. But again, if you're really into games, and of course you're going to spend the money for the little bit extra, power, yes. And then also, you're good down a few years down the line as well too with gaming performance. But gaming performance is surprisingly good. So even if you wanted to just spend the $200, the 10s, like I said, does a really good job with gaming performance here. So I think that these devices do a pretty good job. As you guys can see, my only thing with the 10s is I notice it does heat up way more than the 11 and the 12 for sure. But absolutely, these phones do an absolutely great job at performance still. Now, another question is, well, how do these phones perform just casual use? Are they laggy? And I've had a pretty good experience with all of these phones as far as opening up applications and stuff like that. The animations, everything feels pretty smooth here on iOS 16. So I don't have any issues with performance. So like I said, I think you guys will be perfectly fine even if you got the iPhone XS. Obviously, the iPhone 12, I did a little speed test with the 14 Pro Max, and it opens applications just as fast as the 14 Pro Max. So it feels really, really fast and really instant. And so does the iPhone 11, surprisingly. So as far as performance wise, these phones are still very fast, still very smooth when it comes to opening applications and bouncing in and out. It does a really good job with RAM management as well too. So as far as just bouncing in and out, even if you just want to use these phones, it's just a regular phone, social media, no gaming, stuff like that, they're all very smooth. And honestly, I would prefer to get an older iPhone flagship or older Android flagship over these mid-range and budget phones for sure. I think you'll actually be happier. So here's something very important here. So a phone like the iPhone XS, the thing about the software, and let me get it wiped down. The thing about the software on this phone is that it could possibly be the last major OS update for this phone, right? Because I could see it getting iOS 18. We know it's getting iOS 17, but that's also something you need to know. Apple typically has 5 to 6 years for their phones as far as software support. So we know the iPhone 11 is going to be still supported as well for a good amount of time, and of course the iPhone 12. Now, if you're really concerned with software support, then of course you're going to get the iPhone 12 since it's the newest phone here. So if the iPhone 12, I'll give you guys an example. The 12 launched with iOS 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So Apple typically, like, they cut phones around 5 to 6 years. So again, you'll get iOS 18 to 19 on the iPhone 12, and then you just do the same thing for the 10, 10s, and the 11. So also that is something that you need to think about as well too. And also, as far as FaceTime, iMessage, all of that still works the same. Face ID works the same on all of these phones. So nothing, no major difference there as well too. Nothing is better on each of these phones. They all, again, feel the same. All of these phones have stereo speakers, so we got it at max volume. Let's go ahead and compare them. So definitely a little bit more bass on the iPhone 11 compared to the XS, but they're both about the same in terms of loudness. Yeah, so not a big difference with the speakers. You do get better bass on the 11 and 12. But as far as the quality, you're still getting really good quality on all of these guys, just a little bit more bass on these two. All right, so let's talk about the camera situation here. So very similar camera setups, but there are some slight differences. So the iPhone XS here, it does have a 2x telephoto camera, and the 12 and the 11 does not. So that's one thing that you notice. So there's no ultra wide. As you can see, Apple, I guess people pretty much prefer the ultra wide shot over the telephoto. So I guess that's why Apple got rid of it. But yeah, so you do have that on here. If you were to ask me which one takes the best pictures, of course, it's going to be the iPhone 12. If you take a lot of pictures and stuff like that, all of these phones do a really good job outdoors. But the 11 and 12, they're kind of neck and neck in terms of quality. It's very hard to tell the difference. But I would say you can get the iPhone 11 or 12 if you take a lot of pictures. And I would say if you take a lot of pictures, I would kind of avoid the XS. Not that it takes bad photos. I just think the photos look just a little bit better, especially if you're going to keep the phone for long term. But yeah, so the 11 and 12, they do have the ultra wide cameras on them. So you're able to get that wider shot. So yeah, so definitely take that into consideration. You take a lot of photos, definitely go with the 11 or 12. Video quality is still pretty good on these phones as well too. And show you guys a shot that I took. So you guys can see the cameras are actually, like I said, in good lighting, very similar. But you will notice the shots look a little bit better on the 12. But like I said, it's very slight. And just from testing these cameras, like I said, it's very, very slight. But definitely the 12 does a way better job in low light as well too. So that's something that you guys should know. If you take a lot of nighttime photography, you'll like the 12. But I'm telling you guys, in daytime, there's not a massive difference. I think the XS, the color is off on the XS sometimes. But other than that, guys, these phones all still take some pretty good shots. But definitely, if you take a lot of photos and stuff like that, you're definitely going to want the best camera, and I would go with the iPhone 12. And for all my video people, they all have the same video settings as well too. They're all capable of shooting 4K 60 and 4K 24 as well too. So all these phones do a really good job at taking video. I think True Tone is on here. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but the video quality is going to be really good. I personally really like iPhone video as well too, but as you can see here, you do have HDR video on the iPhone 12, and you don't have that setting on the 11 and XS as well too. So you do have that high dynamic range video. So video, like I said, everything is going to be just a little bit better, but like I said, for the average person, you're really not going to notice too much of a difference from the 11 and 12. But like I said, from the XS, you will notice a difference for sure. All of these phones are glass and metal phones, and they're all IP68 dust and water resistant as well. The XS and the iPhone 11 are extremely comfortable to hold, and like I said, I would say the XS is more comfortable to hold since it's a smaller device, as you can see. But absolutely love holding these phones. They feel really good in the hand, and they have the curved edges, so they don't really cut into the hand. Now, Apple moved away from that, and with the iPhone 12, it has the more boxy shape that we see in the new iPhones, and it does kind of cut into the hand. It's not as comfortable to hold. Most people are going to put a case on it, which will eliminate that boxiness. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that is something that I noticed. Also, what's pretty cool, all these phones have wireless charging, but you do have the MagSafe charging on the iPhone 12, and you can take advantage of the MagSafe accessories as well too. You can put the wallet on the back of here, or you can just charge it with MagSafe as well too. So that's something that you might be interested in as well. Now, for the battery situation, you're definitely going to get the best battery life on the iPhone 12, and then it would be the 11, and then the XS in my experience. Now, again, battery life, especially if you're going to buy from like a seller on eBay, always ask for the battery health. And when you do get your phone, go into the battery health, And you can see this phone is at 88% battery health, and this lasts me all day easily. If you're not like gaming on this phone, the iPhone 11 and 12, they do a really good job at lasting all day. The 10s, I noticed, definitely have to charge the 10s, so it feels like I'm getting like 4 to 5 hours of screen on time with the 10s for sure. And this one is at I don't think the battery health is bad on this one, but definitely not getting that good of a battery life. It's okay. Yeah, 85%, which is not bad at all. But yeah, you definitely have to charge the 10s. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think the iPhone 11 is actually the sweet spot still. It still feels very modern, and like I said, it's coming down in price, so you can get it for, close to, I'm seeing it for $250. Like I said, I think the cheapest I saw it for like a really good condition is like $266. So it's coming down in price. So I would definitely consider the iPhone 11 if you want to spend that extra money on the better display. Also, the slightly better cameras on the iPhone 12, MagSafe charging, stuff like that. You want those little extra features. Definitely the iPhone 12, I think. And also, it's going to have the longest lifespan, so you won't have to upgrade for a long time. And the iPhone 10s is kind of a toss-up with the 10s, right? Because we don't know if it's going to get iOS 18. Also, the iPhone 11 is so cheap that, I would just save up the money and get an iPhone 11. If you really are deciding between the 10s and 11, just save up the little extra money and get the iPhone 11 for sure. Just because it's going to have a longer software lifespan, and I think it's in a really good spot as far as the design, the specs, and all that good stuff. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.